Title: My son needed a liver transplant. That's when I found out he wasn't mine. Chapter 1: The night everything changed. I still remember the sound of the ambulance, the piercing siren, the way my heart felt like it would rip out of my chest. My son, 4 years old, lay limp in my arms, his lips pale, his tiny body barely breathing. He'd somehow gotten into my wife's sleeping pills. She swore the bottle was childproof, swore it was in her locked drawer, but somehow he got to them, and took too many. I don't know how it happened. All I know is that in that moment, nothing else mattered but getting him help. The hospital was a blur of rushing doctors and blinking monitors. Machines beeped. Nurses shouted codes I couldn't understand. And I just stood there numb, frozen, powerless. They said his liver was failing, that he might need a transplant. I didn't hesitate. I said, "Take mine," without a second thought. They told me they had to run some tests first. Blood type compatibility, tissue match, standard procedure. I remember holding his hand, whispering to him that Daddy was going to make everything better, that I wouldn't let anything happen to him, that I loved him more than life itself. And I meant it. I've been with my wife since school. We were that forever couple everyone rooted for. Got married young, had our boy young, built a life full of late-night cartoons, tiny shoes by the door, and crayon drawings on the fridge. I thought I knew everything about my life, until that hospital test shattered it all. A day later, a doctor pulled me aside. He looked uncomfortable, like he was carrying a secret too heavy to say out loud. He asked if we could speak privately. My wife clung to my arm. She insisted on staying. I thought it was love, concern, loyalty. But now I know it was fear. Fear what the truth might do to me. Eventually, she let go, and the doctor leaned in with a strange look on his face and said, "There's a discrepancy in the blood work." That's when I felt the first crack in my world. Not a break, just a crack. But I didn't know yet that it was only the beginning. Chapter 2: The Doctor's Truth. I sat in that cold consultation room, the sterile scent of antiseptic clinging to the air like fog. The doctor sat across from me, flipping through his clipboard like he didn't want to meet my eyes. He started carefully, too carefully. Said my son's liver was still failing, but they had a plan, a list of potential donors. They were still hopeful. Then he paused and asked if I knew my blood type. "Oh," I said without hesitation. "I've known it since school." He nodded slowly, then looked up. "Your son is AB," he said. I blinked. I waited for him to explain how that was possible. I waited for science to rescue me from the rising tide of dread building in my chest. But he didn't say anything more. I'm not a geneticist, but I'm not an idiot either. I knew what he meant. Oh, an AB? That's not how biology works. That's not how paternity works. My mind screamed for another answer. Maybe a lab error? A mix-up? Some rare medical anomaly? But deep down, I already knew. He's not mine. Not biologically. And the worst part? The doctor couldn't say it outright. Legally, ethically, I had to connect the dots myself. So I asked him, "Does that mean I'm not his father?" He lowered his eyes and gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. "Yes," he whispered. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, frozen, as the floor beneath me silently gave way. For years of first steps, first words, bedtime stories, scraped knees, tiny arms around my neck. Gone. Not the memories, but the certainty, the identity I'd built, the truth I believed. All of it undone by a single blood type. And the woman I trusted most? She was sitting in that waiting room, pretending everything was fine. I stood up, thanked the doctor, and walked out. I didn't even look at her, because if I did, I might never stop screaming. Chapter 3: My son, not my blood. I drove home in silence that night. No music, no calls, just a dull hum of the engine and the roaring chaos in my head. The world outside looked the same, but inside me, something fundamental had shattered. I kept seeing his face. My son, his goofy smile, the way he says, "Dada," when he wants something, the way he wraps his little fingers around mine when he's scared. None of that had changed. But now, every memory, every moment, was stitched with a cruel question. Was it ever real? I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, waiting for answers I knew I'd never get. The next morning, I walked into our house, and she was in the kitchen. My wife, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. She looked surprised to see me, nervous, like she already knew what the doctor told me. I didn't say a word, just grabbed a bag and started packing. "Please, let me explain," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. It didn't mean anything. I was confused. It only happened once. Once. Funny how betrayal always hides behind the word once. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just looked at her and said the only truth I had left. "He's not mine." She broke down, collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, begging, pleading, swearing she never meant for this to happen. But she did. She chose to lie, to let me believe, to let me love a child she knew might not be mine. And she would have taken that lie to the grave, if not for the transplant test. I told her I was leaving, that I'd never forgive her, that us was over. But then I stopped, because in the middle of all that pain, there was a thought I couldn't silence. What about him? What about the boy who still calls me daddy? Chapter 4. The Father I Still Want to Be. I moved out that same evening. Took only what I needed and left the house, his house, to them. I couldn't bring myself to kick him out of the only home he's ever known. He's innocent in all this. My mother welcomed me in with that same quiet strength she's always had. She didn't ask questions. Just gave me a place to breathe, to collapse, to feel. But I didn't collapse. I couldn't, because all I could think about was him. The little boy who still hadn't asked where I'd gone. Who probably woke up that morning expecting pancakes and cartoons. Who didn't understand why Daddy's truck wasn't in the driveway anymore. And the worst part? Legally, I might not have any rights. Because biology matters in court. Because signatures on birth certificates for years of love, scraped knees, sleepless nights, and I love you, Dada might not be enough. That thought, it broke me more than the betrayal ever could. She's been calling, texting, telling me she loves me, that she wants to talk, that it didn't mean anything, that he's still our son, my son, but the damage is done. The foundation's gone. I'm not coming back to her. That part's decided. But the boy, God, I can't just walk away from him. I raised him. I held him that first night when he wouldn't stop crying. I was the one who taught him to ride his tricycle. I kissed every scraped elbow, sat through every cartoon, and built blanket forts on Sunday mornings. Blood or not, that's what a dad does. So now, I'm looking for a lawyer, not to punish her, not for revenge, but to fight for the right to be his father, even if the law says I'm not, because he's still my son, and I'll fight to prove it. Chapter 5. A different kind of goodbye. It's been over a week since everything fell apart, and I still haven't seen him, my son. The silence in the house we used to share is louder than any scream. Every morning, I wake up expecting the sound of his feet, running down the hallway, his laughter, his little voice asking for breakfast. But there's nothing, just quiet. I spoke to a lawyer yesterday. He said I might have a case, because I signed a birth certificate, because I've been there every day of that boy's life, because in every way except DNA, I am his father. But there are no guarantees. It'll depend on the court, on the state, on the judge, and maybe on her, because she still holds the cards. She can make this harder. Or maybe stop it from happening at all. She sent me a video last night. It was him, my son. He was sitting on the porch, hugging a stuffed bear I gave him last Christmas. He looked at the camera and said, "Where's Daddy? I miss him." I watched that clip over and over until my eyes burned. I wanted to call, to run back, to scoop him up and never let go. But I didn't, because I need to do this right. Not as a man begging for scraps of time with his son, but as a father claiming what's already his. Today, I'm filing the paperwork, seeking visitation, custody, whatever the law allows. I don't care what her excuses are. I don't care how many times she cries or begs or says it meant nothing. She lied, but he didn't. He just loved me. And that love doesn't vanish with blood tests or courtrooms. It lives in bedtime stories and goodnight kisses, in scraped knees and piggyback rides. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll win in court. Maybe I won't. But either way, I'm not walking away without trying. Because even if the world says I'm not his father, he will always be my son.